I want to thank you all for joining me for today's webinar on creating the ultimate CMA. Really, the goal today is just to introduce to you guys the CMA, how really to run it, kind of what the idea is behind it. One thing I will share, and I think I will probably say this multiple times, just a warning, I'm going to repeat myself on this. I don't know the real numbers. So part of the CMA through Flex is giving a value to each field. For example, like the number of bedrooms. So if one property has 4 bedrooms, your subject has 3. Well, what's the value difference between a 4-bedroom and a 3-bedroom? I feel like it's different. It varies probably in many different spots throughout the state. And I am not privy to that information. So I'm going to be making these numbers up. And again, I'll say it again over and over again. Don't use these numbers. Our recommendation is speaking to your designated broker. They may have a better idea of what to use in the market. And we've heard this from some appraisers too, is appraisers don't mind if you reach out to them and ask them some questions. Can't guarantee every appraiser, but the ones I've spoken to are all very nice. And they say that's something that's part of what they do is they assist agents. So take one out to lunch, invite them for a call, and just pick their brain on what they are seeing out in the market. All right, so let's just jump into it. So to start a CMA, there's actually a few different ways. And this is something else I wanted to point out in my initial speech, is that there's multiple ways to kind of get into this, to start this, to find comps and so on and so forth. So I'm really just going to be guiding you through a very basic, straightforward way, but there's plenty of ways to get the information. Okay. So let's start by opening up the menu in Flex. I'm looking for the CMA tool, I guess, in the menu. So I know that it's under search, something I'm just going to quickly point out. If you use CMAs frequently and you don't want to open the menu to find it every single time, simply click on the star to the left of it. That turns it gold. It puts up the favorite bar, puts it up here so you can easily find it and click it to get to it. If you don't want to do that and you cannot seem to find CMA or any menu item, you can simply search for it in the menu. So there it is. It isolates it. If I'm looking for my listings, just type in my listings. There it is. There they are. Okay. Little tangent, but I think that's just a nice little technique that some people just don't really know about, is there's an easy way to find stuff in the menu. All right. So let's get this started. So I'm on my CMA page here. I have my saved CMAs. I can go in and edit. You can tell these are test CMAs. Here are the drafts. Looks like the last time I did one was 6 months ago. Holy moly. But for today's sake, I want to start from scratch. So I'm going to click new in the top right. I'm keeping it simple. As I said, I'm going to do residential. I'm not changing the statistical type. To be honest, don't necessarily know what this means. Price per this field in the overall statistics. I'm going to keep it square foot finished total for now. And I'll hit next. Probably shouldn't have said that. I didn't know what it means out loud. So we're on to the cover page. This information is really for you, for organizational purposes for now. Eventually, you'll see it on the printed CMA. But as you're going through it, this is a good way to find it in the future. So who's this going to be for? So you can change the title. I'm cool keeping it comparable market analysis. That's what CMA stands for. So who is it going to be for? This is a good time to put in your client's name, or maybe it's a business's name, whatever it is. Again, this is really to, for one, stay organized while you're going through the process. And if you have to come back and go in and leave and come back to finish it, it's good to have some of this information written down to jog your memory. And on the presentation, when it's actually finished, your client will see their name on it, which is always very nice. For today's sake, I'm just using my own name. The CMA date, you can always use current date, or you can do as of, and you can actually change this to be what you want. So if you promised your homework was going to be turned in yesterday and it didn't get turned in, well, hey, change the CMA date to yesterday. It's fine. Prepared by either your business card. So you guys I think these are custom ones. So you guys would see generic or profile. My understanding is they're really much the same. I think they're just laid out a little differently in terms of like photo size and stuff, but I could be wrong. If you want to skip out on the business card, this is what is at the bottom of your emails and stuff when you send them out through Flex. You can just keep it simple, prepared by this would be your name, not this jumbly mess of words that we have. I'll do the generic card. And comments. So this one is optional. You don't have to fill in any comments. I'll show you where it lives in the CMA when we are viewing our final CMA form at the end. But this is really, I guess you could think of this kind of as the remarks section for the subject property. So feel free to type something up here. You don't have to treat it like that if you don't want to. It can just be a simple note. Just to show you guys where it is, I want to write something in here that we'll remember and we'll be able to point out. So something simple like beautiful property in an amazing small town. All right, I'm hyping this up. Here we go. So we're ready to move on to the next page. So I'm going to click next at the bottom right. I clicked that a little fast, but there should always be a next button on the bottom right as you go through the tabs. And you can also simply just click on the tabs up here. Only the ones that are in blue. You have to kind of go step by step at first to unlock the next tab. And then once it's unlocked, you're kind of a little more free to hop around. So the subject tab is in reference to the subject property of the CMA, the one that you're going to be pulling comps for and comparing those values to a potential subject value. So you can either do this manually. Let's say the listing has, I shouldn't say that way. Let's say the property has never been on the MLS. You will have to manually enter in the data, like the address, and then to do all of these fields here. You don't have to fill out all of them, but any of the fields that you plan on creating adjustments for, you'll want to fill in the information here. So I think it's better to do more, but at the same time, it can be very time consuming to create adjustments for, I don't know, these dozen fields, if any of them or all of them are even relevant, right? For today's sake, I'm just going to use a property that's already been in the MLS a couple of times. So I'm going to click this auto populate fields from existing listing, and I'm going to type in the MLS number. And bada bing, bada boom, it gives me the address, it gives me the cover photo or the primary photo of the listing I pulled from. Totally fine to use in the CMA purposes. And then it auto-populated all of this data. One thing you may notice that I'm definitely noticing is a waterfront amount plus or minus is empty because this property doesn't have any waterfront. So this field isn't necessary. And granted, at that point, neither is water frontage no. If there's no water frontage amount, there's no point of keeping that no question there either. So what I can do is I can hit this little trash can to the right of the field, bam, to get rid of it. Great. So now I don't have to worry about that field. Another thing I like to point out here is that in the CMA, by default, the field for bathrooms is total baths. And for this property, not such a big deal, as there's only one bath anyway. But if your subject property has, say, one full bathroom and one half bathroom, this field would say 2 total baths. But depending on how specific and in-depth you're trying to be with your CMA, the value of a full bathroom, I would think anyway, I don't really know, the value of a full bathroom is more than the value of a half bathroom. And so if you really want to get into the CMA, I think it's best to actually break those out so that you can be more specific about the value of the full and of the half when you're making your comparisons. I hope that makes sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this total baths field. Simply, I'm going to click onto it. It's gray, so you can't like edit the text, but when you click on it, you can see that it actually gives me this drop down now. And this gives me the opportunity to replace that field with a new one. So let's see how long it takes me to find it. Not too long. So I just typed in TOT. It brought me down to the total, the word totals. And right there, I have total baths, full baths, and half. So I want total full. The one bathroom in the house is a full bathroom. I'm going to also either change or add a field to represent the total half baths as well. So even though I'm going to put 0 there, I just want to show you the process of it. So the water frontage is no. As I had mentioned, I don't really need that, nor am I going to use it in my CMA to compare the value of properties. So I'm going to, again, just click on the gray, go into the dropdown, type TOT to get to total baths, scroll down just a tad, and find total half baths. I'll put 0 there, as silly as all that was. Another thing I don't like now that I have it set up this way is total half baths is all the way at the bottom. Total full baths is towards the top. I would like them to be next to each other. It's definitely not a requirement, but just for a stylistic choice, I can actually hover over what we call the hamburger, which are these 3 vertical lines. Kind of looks like a hamburger, depending on what time of the day it is. And you can hover over it, and it gives you these 4 directional arrows. So you can click there. Hold on, I got to adjust my mouse pad real quick so I can move it up. And you can drag the field up, and drop it where you want it to be. And now we have total half baths, excuse me, on 3rd on the list. Anonymous attendee, sorry I missed your question at 9:42. Yes, this will be recorded. It's going to take me a few days to get it uploaded on our YouTube channel. But if you email, if you're still here, if you email help@mainlistings.com and ask us for the CMA link, we can send you the one from last year. It's going to be the same. Some of it might look different. I don't notice any updated visuals yet, so it should be roughly the same. You can also go to youtube.com and search CMA main listings, and it should be the first response. Okay, hopefully they can get back to me. All right. So we have these fields, and I think I am now satisfied. I got rid of the water frontage fields that I'm not going to be needing. I have changed the bathrooms field to full bath and a separate one for half bath, so I can break out the values in a little more detail. And you can play around and you can keep changing things as you see fit. If you need to add a brand new field as you've run out of the fields to change and customize, you can click a new item and it will give you that drop down, just like as we've seen before. All right, let's click next now. Give the system a second to load, unless it's not loading because I have this empty field. Now let's hit next. So now it's going to ask me to find comps. So there's quite a few ways to do this. You can do it ahead of time through a quick search, and you can save those results as a listing collection. Right here is one of the options. You can do a quick search starting off with the property type. Click find comps right here. It'll bring you to the quick search. You can start adding criteria. Doing a radius search will give you the results within whatever amount of miles you have set, or you can just manually start typing in MLS numbers here. Let's do a radius search for today's. I'm going to do half a mile. I'm going to find comps. I have no idea what I'm going to be able to grab. Oh, there's plenty. Excellent. Now the right thing to do is to go through this list and pick ones that make sense for your listing. So one bad thing about the search that I'm doing, just doing a radius search, is that it's pulling everything. So not everything is going to be a match. Doing the quick search gives you the options, or the opportunity, I should say, to narrow the listing down by like the square footage, by the amount of yard space, the number of bathrooms, bedrooms, a garage or not, all those things that you would normally look for to try to find a almost, I guess the idea is to find an exact copy, but to find a reasonable comp, you can't really do through the radius search. You have to kind of eyeball it. just based on what columns are here. I hope that makes sense. So I'm just going to go through and I'm just going to select a few that I think are relatively the same. And actually, I'll just stick to 3 today. So I have my 3 selected that are apparently pretty close comps to my subject listing, I've determined. Now that I have them selected, I have my check marks. I'm on the selected tab. You see 3. I can return listings to CMA up here. And now I have my CMA or my comps for my CMA. If you so choose, if you want to move these around, feel free again, just move that hamburger. If you like the idea of them being in a numerical order, or maybe you want to delete one, again, hit that trash can. You can also uncheck them as well. I believe what unchecking does is it's going to leave it as part of the overall adjustment calculation, but it's not going to actually include the data in your CMA, if that makes sense. So it's doing its work behind the scenes. It is not going to be visually displayed. But I like all 3, so let's hit next and go to adjustments. So on the adjustments tab here, excuse me, this bar here, this box that I'm moving, these are the fields that I set up in my subject tab. So you can see I have the full bath here and the half bath. Those are the 2 ones that I created. And if I scroll down to the bottom, I don't have those water frontage fields. Those are the ones that I removed or replaced. So these are the fields that are in the subject tab. And I can now make adjustments as I see fit. Oh, look, none of these have half bathrooms. That's convenient. And they all have 1 bath. Oh, no. Okay. Oh, okay. Bedrooms will be something I can show you. They're too good of comps, guys. I picked 2 good of comps. So what we can do is we can say it's, $1,000 for a bedroom, right? So the value of a bedroom in Lisbon, I'm saying is $1,000. Again, I'm gonna have to say it. It most likely is not. Don't take this number and use it for yourself. So what you want to do with that value, if let's say you want to do this manually and you want to enter these adjustments in manually, 16 Center Street has 4 bedrooms and my subject has 3 bedrooms. So the idea of the CMA is to essentially make adjustments to the comparable listings we chose to get them to match our property. What I mean by that, hopefully my explanation makes more sense. If this 16 Center Street has 4 bedrooms, we want to subtract the value of a bedroom from its price to give us what theoretically the value of the 3-bedroom home would be. Of course, there's a lot more to it than just the bedroom, but I hope that makes sense, right? We have a 4-bedroom home. We want to subtract the value of one of those bedrooms so that it matches our subject. So I'll come in here and we want to subtract $1,000, right? There's the adjustment. And we can go through and we can do that for all of them as we see fit. We can give a value for square footage above grade and below grade and the lot size. Maybe year built plays a big role. The fact it has a garage is going to be important. Excellent. And I can show you guys how that works too. I'm going to remove all adjustments just so we can start with a clean slate. You can see it removed the bedroom value. And if you want to do this automatically, meaning that you give each field a value ahead of time, and then you auto adjust and the system just does the plussing or minusing to each field for you, we can do so towards the bottom. You can see there's no adjustments. We want to edit adjustment list. Okay, I gave myself 5,000. And I will remove these just so we can start from scratch. So I'm going to add new. And I want to choose residential. That's the property type we're working for. And the number of bedrooms is what we're going to be working with. I said it out loud, so I'm going to stick to my guns. I'm going to say it's $1,000 value for the bedroom. I'm going to hit save. What else could we do? Let's add a new one. Residential. It looked like square footage might be a good one if I can quickly find it. Let's do above grade. this might get a little wild because I don't exactly know how this is going to go, but let's say it's 50. I think that makes sense, right? $50 a square foot. I don't know. And let's do one more just for the funsies of it. Let's do garage spaces so I can show you. And I really value my garage space. I'll be 100% honest with you. I'm giving it $5,000. All right. Excellent. So these are the fields. And again, you can do as many of these as you want. The idea is the more you do, the more specific or accurate it's going to be. I'm sure there's a point where that curve goes back the other way in terms of accuracy and stuff. It really is up to the market that you're in. And so again, speak to your DB if you have questions on the value of things, and best practices with CMAs for your area. And if they are also unsure, maybe worth reaching out to an appraiser that maybe you've worked with before and just seeing if they're open to having their brain picked for a little bit. A lot of the appraisers I speak to say that they are open to stuff like that. So just saying it. Okay, let's return to CMA. So I have these 3 adjustments that I just added. So now I want to do the auto adjustments. So simply, I can click auto adjust comparables. This little pop-up is essentially saying, hey, you click this button. What we're going to do is make adjustments for you. Do you wish to proceed? Well, yeah, that's why I clicked the button. So I'm going to click OK. It's going to tell me how many adjustments were made. So they added 6 adjustments to the CMA. So I had 3 auto adjusts. Okay, so that's pretty good. I'm going to hit OK. So I can see down here when we look at 16 Center Street. So now we want to be looking down here, right? So we can go to 9 David Street. So the system says square foot finished above grade, gave it a plus value of 5,755. Let's actually go to the square footage above grade. Aha, there it is. So 9 David Street is 925 square feet. My subject is 1040 with a value of $50 a square foot. The value, maybe that's, I don't know, actually, maybe that's cool. That's good. You know, I need to not judge my values I pick. They're all made up. They gave the value of 9 David Street. They added $5,750 to the value. Theoretically speaking, for the CMA's purpose, if 9 David Street had 1,040 square feet instead of 925, it would be worth $5,750 more. It's kind of the idea we're working with. Weaver Street got a big drop in value because it's a lot bigger than the subject value. We can go back up to bedrooms. So that $1,000 adjustment that I did manually, you can see that it happened here as well, right? It gave it minus 1,000. And the other one is garage spaces. And this is one I want to show you guys specifically. So when you're doing your data entry and you select no to garage, for some reason, and I really wish it did, the system doesn't make the number of garage spaces 0. It just doesn't have a number. It just doesn't fill in that entry. So when you're doing the value of garage spaces, if your property has a garage space and the subject, or the comp does not have a garage space, then you need to actually make the manual adjustment for the value of a garage space. It might be easier to do just based on garage and say, okay, well, this one doesn't have a garage, so I need to add $5,000 worth of value. But again, not for me to say how to specifically do it. I just know that if you want to run garage spaces this way, if the answer to the garage is no, then the system isn't going to know that it's 0 that needs to be 1. It thinks it's empty and therefore isn't going to make any mathematical adjustments. I hope that made sense. I don't feel like I explained that very well, but so if you're doing garage spaces and one of them is answered no, you'll have to make the manual adjustment regardless of your auto adjustment. All right. For the sake of time, we're good to move on here. I'm going to hit next to go to the summary tab. This is just giving me a breakdown of what the adjustments for each of the comps were. For example, 16 Center Street, we had $250,000 sold price. All in all, the adjustments came out to negative $5,000. So we have a $244,800 adjusted price. So you can kind of see the math that the system is using here. It gives you some stats on that data. And we can move on to the recommendation tab. So this is the low amount that it's recommending. This is the high amount. And then this is the actual recommended price that the system is giving you based on your CMA and the adjustments it made. So it's a little bit of an awkward number, 266, right? If you want it just to look cleaner, you know, maybe you agree with 266, but you don't want that 183 looking weird, because usually homes are listed in an even number. So you can manually change the recommended to clean it up, or maybe you don't think 266 is right at all. You've done the CMA, you've done these adjustments. It's not coming out with a recommended price that you think is legit. You can also just manually change it to make a little more sense for you. Maybe 255 makes more sense in the market. And you know that, even though the CMA is giving you this recommended price. So kind of weird that you can kind of just bypass what's recommended and type your own thing in here. But ultimately, the thought is you know better than the computer should. All right. So I'm happy with that. We made some changes to the recommended. Let's go over to the next tab, which is finish. So all of these options here are essentially pages that would go into your CMA. So anything that's checked off is essentially adding another page or another section of pages to your CMA. Some things might not necessarily be necessary. Don't know why I said it that way, but for example, I see quite a bit of times that some sellers just aren't into stats. They can't look at a display chart, for example, and really comprehend what it even means, right? They still want the explanation. So if you know your clients don't really care about the display of information that you're using, they just want to hear it from you and they trust what you're saying, to shorten up the CMA, just unclick the statistical summary. That's going to save you a couple of pages. It's going to make that CMA a little bit shorter, just in case that matters. If you're sending it out in an email for file size purposes, or if you're printing it and you want to save yourself some paper, not everything is going to be necessary. So you can make your changes here. So I turned that off. Let's hit view, because I actually want to I want to see what the CMA will look like as it stands right now. So we have our CMA, comparable market analysis. So that would be the title. We could have given it in the beginning. Here's the photo. Here's my information, kind of, not really. Here are the comments that I wrote earlier, right? Beautiful property, an amazing small town. Shout out Lisbon Falls. So here's the map. It maps the comparables that you're using relative to your subject property, which I think could be useful. But again, turn it off. If you don't think your client needs this, you can turn it off and save yourself the ink on the page from printing it. Something to note here is that if you are manually adding in a comparable listing, which you can do, I didn't talk about it, but you can manually add a comparable listing to it if you know that property's information. You cannot pin those to this map. Not necessarily sure why. I can't give you a reason. I just know that if you're manually adding in a comparable, it's not giving you the option to pin the property. So that's not going to show up on this list, which can be kind of a pain in the butt. Something else. I don't know why I just noticed this, but canceled here is 2 L's, and we've changed that. So we can keep going, and you get the idea. All right, this is the CMA. You've seen one. Here's the comparable property section. Something else you can do, the CMA color scheme. Not that it's a big difference, but if, let's say, you have a specific color scheme in mind for your company, or just you as an agent, maybe you use a lot of orange in your marketing, and that's kind of your standout color. You can keep that hopefully kind of going with these CMAs as well. They give you some color options, which was a little more obvious what some of these colors meant, but we can choose tangerine because that's an easy one. I'll click view again. And you can see it just changes the header text to a certain color. And it just makes it look nice, and it can keep into flow of what your marketing kind of is already. Awesome. So we can email that out. We can download it as a PDF. We can save it. So saving a CMA, this isn't like saving the file to your computer. So download if you want to do that. This is saving the CMA into Flex so you can come back to it at a different time. Let's do Tyler CMA for Lisbon. Hopefully I can remember that because I think there's one that sounds similar. So I'm giving it a CMA name. I'm clicking save. Yeah, that was confusing because I named it very similarly. Yeah, so the Tyler CMA for Lisbon, you can tell because it says last modified, was this one. So if I need to come back into it now, this is the way to do it. Let's say I save the CMA. I haven't sent it to my client yet. I wanted to do some touch-ups. I log into Flex. This is the next morning. I can come into the menu, into the CMA, look for the one that I saved yesterday, and double check your last modified date if you named it something similar. And then you can click edit, and it'll drop you off on the last place you went, and you can come back and change things up. Like I'm coming over to recommendation. Maybe I realize 255 might be low. I want the recommended to say 265. I can hit next now, and I can go back through, and now it's going to give me the 265 recommended. All right. And I'm going to reset, and I'm going to say my goodbyes. I want to thank you all for joining me today for today's webinar on the ultimate CMA. If you have any questions about CMAs after, even if it's today or tomorrow, give us a call at 780-1366. You can also email us at help@mainlistings.com. Have a great day. Thank you, guys.